Welcome to Mind Minutes, your daily dose of brighter thinking. Ever find yourself comparing how your partner treats you versus their ex? It's a common relationship hurdle, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a relationship taboo, almost. You know you shouldn't, but that little seed of doubt can sprout so easily.
Exactly. This article we're discussing dives into this very issue. It talks about retroactive jealousy, this unpleasant feeling triggered by a partner's past relationships.
So, like obsessing over what they did or didn't do with someone else?
Yeah, and psychologist Stockhill points out it's surprisingly normal to feel this to some degree. It stems from those feelings of possessiveness and wanting to be the one.
That makes sense, especially if you're not feeling totally secure in the relationship yet.
Right. The article even talks about a more severe form, obsessive retroactive jealousy. This is when thoughts about your partner's past become intrusive and, well, almost uncontrollable.
Yikes. I can see how that would be damaging. So, how do you deal with these feelings, aside from, full blown therapy?
Well, one key point is understanding that your partner's past is just that the past. It's part of who they are, but it doesn't define your relationship with them.
And
And
people change, right? What someone needed or wanted in a relationship 5 years ago might be totally different now.
exactly. The article talks about how our needs and desires in relationships evolve as we evolve. Maybe your partner used to crave constant communication with their ex, but now they value something else entirely, like acts of service or quality time.
Oh, interesting. So it's not necessarily that they cared more for their ex, just that their needs were different back then?
Exactly. The article also mentions how we act differently depending on who we're with. Remember Sullivan's interpersonal field theory?
Vaguely? Refresh my memory?
It's all about how we adjust our behavior based on the other person in the interaction. Like maybe your partner was super clingy with their ex because their ex was emotionally unavailable.
Oh, so it wasn't inherent clinginess, but a reaction to the other person's behavior?
Precisely. It's fascinating how our interactions shape our behavior in relationships. The article even links this to attachment theory.
Ah, attachment styles. Makes sense. How we attach to others can vary depending on our own history and the other person's style.
Right, so instead of asking, do you love me or them, the article suggests asking yourself, why am I so bothered by this?
That's a good point. It shifts the focus back to you and what might be triggering these feelings.
Yeah, and it might unearth some hidden insecurities or unmet needs in your current relationship. The article outlines a few common scenarios where this comparison thinking pops up, like if you're already feeling insecure or if you stumble upon information unexpectedly.
Or if your partner just blurts out details about their past relationships. Which, by the way, who does that?
Huh, right? Right? But even then, the article says it could be a sign of trust and wanting to be open, although it's generally not advised. Hmm.
It's an interesting take. I can see that. So, comparing your partner's behavior with their ex isn't inherently bad, but it's a chance for self reflection, not self destruction.
So it's not always a red flag if your partner mentions their ex, right? I mean, sometimes it just slips out.
Yeah. The article actually suggests that sometimes it can even be a sign they're trying to be transparent. Although, like you said, not always the best idea. It's a delicate balance, right?
Totally. It's like they want to be open and honest, but maybe too much information? Oversharing? There's a term for that, isn't there?
Information TMI, maybe? Ha ha ha. But seriously, the article emphasizes shifting the focus inward. Like, instead of getting caught up in the details of their past, ask yourself, why does this bother me so much, you know?
Oh, for sure. Self-reflection over ex-reflection, right? That's a good one. Write that down. But I mean, easier said than done, isn't it? Hmm.
Definitely. It takes practice, but it's a more productive approach than, say, spiraling into a jealous rage. The article gives some pretty practical scenarios, too.
Oh yeah. Like what?
Well, like, say you're already feeling insecure. Maybe you've had a rough week at work, or you're feeling a little distant from your partner. That's prime breeding ground for retroactive jealousy.
Makes total sense. You're already vulnerable, so any little trigger, boom.
Exactly. Or, like, what if you stumble across some old photos or messages? Unexpectedly, you know? That can be a real whammy.
Oof. I've been there. Not fun. It's like instant comparison mode, right? Were they happier then? Did they do more fun things together? Did they look at their ex the way they look at me now?
Oh, yeah. That's when those intrusive thoughts creep in, the ones the article talks about, like, is it me? Is there something wrong with me or with
And
us?
that's where that obsessive retroactive jealousy comes in, right? The unhealthy kind. Hmm.
Yeah. The article distinguishes between the normal twinge of jealousy and the kind that consumes you. That's where, like you said earlier, therapy might be a good option.
Definitely. But for the everyday pangs of retroactive jealousy, the article suggests some pretty solid coping strategies, right?
Right. Like, remember, your partner's past shaped them, sure, but it doesn't have to define your present relationship. And going back to what you said about Sullivan's theory, people behave differently in different relationships. Your partner may have acted one way with their ex, but that doesn't mean they'll act the same way with you, right? They may have learned, grown.
So we were talking about how comparing your partner to their ex can really mess with your head, right? But this article, it dives even deeper into how these comparisons can actually reveal a lot about your attachment style. Fascinating stuff.
Oh, yeah? How so?
Well, it talks about how if you're secure in your attachment, those little comparisons, they don't really rattle you. You're confident in your bond, so your partner's past isn't a threat. Like, okay, they had a life before me. So what?
Makes sense. But what if you're not securely attached?
Right. That's where things get interesting. The article suggests that if you have an anxious attachment style, you're more likely to get hung up on those comparisons. You might see their ex as competition, almost.
Oh, I see. Like, were they better, more fun? Did my partner love them more? That kind of thing?
Exactly. And it can spiral into this obsessive need for reassurance, constantly checking in, seeking validation, trying to prove you're better than the ex.
Oof, that sounds exhausting.
Totally. And then there's the avoidant attachment style. The article suggests folks with this style might downplay their partner's past relationships, almost like dismissing them as unimportant.
Oh, interesting. Almost like a defense mechanism?
Yeah, precisely. Like, if they acknowledge the significance of their partner's past, it might mean confronting their own vulnerability, which, avoidant types aren't exactly comfortable with, right?
Right, right. So basically, how we react to our partner's exes can say a lot about how we attach to people in general. That's actually really insightful.
It is, and the article goes on to talk about how understanding your attachment style can be a game changer in managing those retroactive jealousy pangs. Like, if you're aware of your tendencies, you can start to challenge those negative thought patterns.
So it's not just about getting over it, but understanding the why behind the feelings.
Exactly. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm feeling anxious about this. Is it because my partner did something to trigger this? Or is it my own insecurity talking? That kind of self awareness is huge.
That's a great point. It empowers you to address the root of the issue rather than just reacting to the surface level emotions.
Totally. It's about taking control of your narrative instead of letting your insecurities write it for you.
I love that, taking control of your narrative. So the takeaway here is self-reflection is key, right? Understanding your attachment style, recognizing your triggers, it's all connected.
Absolutely. And on that note, we wrap up another episode of Mind Minutes. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And remember, a brighter mindset is just a few minutes away. Catch you next time.
Bye, everyone, and don't forget to subscribe for your daily dose of brighter thinking.